Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be all about planning my summer TBR together, and I'm so excited because I like to do this at the beginning of each season, and now that summer has approached us in the northern hemisphere, I wanted to take the time to be able to jot through or plan what sort of books I want to read this season. I have with me my summer mug, and I'm also sitting down at my desk with a pen and my notepad. Towards the end of spring, I felt this huge desire to read as many classics as possible, and I actually surprised myself quite a bit by wanting to pick up more classics versus fantasy books, which is the genre that I normally gravitate towards all year round. I was able to pick up quite a few of the classics that were sitting around on my physical TBR shelf for a very long time, and I'm really glad I managed to do that this year. Over the last few days though, I felt a huge desire to pick up my fantasy books again, and I've been slowly drifting away from classics, so we'll see what I end up picking up this summer. But like I mentioned, I've been feeling a huge desire to pick up all my fantasy novels again, and lately I've been spending a lot of time in the Keeper of the Lost Cities universe, and I'm currently on book 6. I must have binge read books 4 and 5 over the last 2 weeks, and I'm on book 6 right now, and I'm so obsessed with the whole series. I know a couple of you have mentioned in the comments of my YouTube videos that you think that I'd really enjoy reading Keeper of the Lost Cities, and you're so right. Oh my gosh, I think it must be like one of my favourite middle grade series now, and just all-time favourite series in general. I absolutely love the characters so much. Sophie and Keith have my whole heart. I adore them. And if you love Keeper of the Lost Cities too, I would love it if you could let me know who you ship, which book you're on, or if you finished the entire series, which book was your favourite. I can't wait to finish book 6 currently, Nightfall, and so I'll have to jot down all the other books on my summer TBR as well, and I'm sure I'll get around to reading them, because I've realised that with Keeper of the Lost Cities, I just can't seem to not be able to finish reading it once I pick it up. I binge read the entire book, and so it's been such a great series to visit this year. But other than my fantasy obsession, I do want to make sure I read a couple classics that take place during summer, like Mrs. Dalloway, that I've been meaning to read for years now. And I also want to make sure that I pick up Romeo and Juliet this summer. I haven't managed to read any of Shakespeare's plays ever since I left school, which was quite a few years ago now, and so I do want to make sure that I read or pick up one of his plays. I also love to read about books that takes place by the sea, maybe involving some pirates or mermaids or some sort of water elemental fantasy. So hopefully, I have a couple that are on my radar right now on my Goodreads that I've marked as want to read, so I'll try jot those down as well. Other than that, I think my reading mood tends to oscillate quite a lot in summer, between the more calm, chill and really sweet romances to the more heavy and intense and sometimes quite upsetting reads, like a lot of historical fiction novels I gravitate towards during this time of year. So I'm sure we'll have a large variety on my TBR this season. But yes, I can't wait to start planning, and maybe you're planning your summer TBR with me, and if so, let me know which books are on your TBR and if we have any that are the same. So let's get planning. I also wanted to share with you all this beautiful DIY booknook kit that I'm hoping to add to the shelves as well. This particular one is called Bookshop Memories and was kindly sent to me by a company called Cute Bee, who are the sponsor of today's video. Cute Bee are a DIY crafts brand that specialise in creating magical booknooks and dollhouses. They combine their passion for books with craftsmanship in order to create these stunning miniature worlds that are so perfect to display on your bookshelves. For a while now, I've been noticing these booknook kits floating around on Instagram, and I thought that they were so delicate and whimsical. I was actually in the process of looking into buying my own one when Cute Bee reached out to me, and so I'm over the moon to be able to collaborate with them. After a lot of deliberating, I ended up picking the Bookshop Memories design because I ultimately wanted to be able to place it on my bookshelves, so I thought that it would be extra sweet to have a sort of mini bookshop or library portal displayed in between my books. Cute Bee have offered a coupon code for you all to receive 8% off your order if you'd like to purchase your own booknook kit. So don't forget to use my code ahyasartbang, and I'll make sure to leave all the details in the description box below. Thank you again to Cute Bee for sponsoring today's video, and now let's jump back and update my physical TBR shelf. I've just finished jotting down all the different books I want to read this summer, and they vary from classics to middle grade to YA. You will have seen me making all of these notes down. One thing that I've noticed that is missing on this list is romance, and I don't have a separate category for romance this year, which is quite surprising because normally each summer I like to dedicate a good chunk of my summer months to reading really sweet love stories, but I think I'm going to make up for it probably by all the fantasy or the romantasy that I'll be reading anyway, so I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before in one of my latest videos, but I am on a self-imposed book buying ban, and so I've tried to include as many physical books that I own on this TBR as possible because I want to shrink the really massive physical TBR that I have. But I have also included books that I don't own as well, and new releases, so that I can keep a track of things that I want to buy and things that I want to be on the lookout for. From the classics section, the books that I don't currently own include A Month in the Country and The Great Gatsby, which really surprised me because I studied Great Gatsby in year 9, I think, and so I always thought I had a copy of it on my shelves, but I don't currently own one, and I have no idea what happened to my copy. But This time I think I'll try get the lovely classic iconic blue cover of The Great Gatsby, and so I'll have to see if I can find one in the charity shops, or if not I might treat myself to a copy of it once my book buying ban is lifted. My birthday is in July, and so I plan to lift the book buying ban in July on my birthday, and I'm currently saving, well I have currently saved this year all the points that I've earned from Waterstones, and I think I might have about like £40 worth of book points I can spend, and so I'm saving it all up, and maybe The Great Gatsby is going to be one of the books that I buy. But in the middle grade section I have, well I don't currently own copies of Olivetti and Crookhaven and Paper Dragons, as well as all the books in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series, because I've been reading that through Everend and Libby right now. I'm definitely going to try and get my hands on the entire series of Keeper of the Lost Cities for my birthday this year. I believe that Shannon Messenger is writing her 10th book in this series right now, and I don't know when the release date for that is yet. I think it might be 2025. But yes, it'll be so nice to have caught up with the entire series up to date. Crookhaven is also a book that I wanted to highlight because it's a middle grade fantasy series. I believe it's a school about, was a magical school for thieves, and the main character is supposed to be a pickpocketer, I believe, who ends up being recruited into this school for thieves, and it's all about how to use their skills or their talents for thievery, but for the greater good and for society's good, and that concept really intrigued me. And I know book 2 is out now in Waterstones, so I definitely want to try and pick up the first one this summer. In the fantasy section I also don't own The Spell Shop, The Wishing Game, as well as Hearts That Cut, which is book 2 to Threads That Bind duology. Well, I think it's a duology, I'm not sure, but it's definitely book 2 in the series. I am also a patron of Lexi's Patreon called Foxenwood, and I'll make sure to link all her details down below because she's incredible. But some of the books that we have to read for the summer months include The Wishing Game and The Spell Shop. Now both of these books were already on my TBR, especially The Spell Shop because it's supposed to be a cottagecore fantasy tale, so you know I've already got that on my list. But I'm so happy and excited to be able to read it with the rest of Foxenwood members and see what everybody thinks. Of course, Hearts That Cut is book 2 to Threads That Bind, like I mentioned, and I read this book via Libby last week and I devoured it, and it's actually one of the books that kicked off this huge urge to read fantasy books again this summer. If you haven't read Threads That Bind yet, it's a really fast-paced and incredible YA fantasy, and it has a wonderful romance subplot as well if you like that. I think I like to describe the world as sort of an ancient, rugged version of Atlantis, and think crumbling, decaying, rotting buildings, high tides, flooded cities, creepy monsters that come out of the waters. It's really incredible. In this world, the gods no longer exist, but they have descendants, and their power, the gifts have been passed down throughout generations via these descendants. So a very few or select people in the entire world have access to these divine gifts now. The main character that we follow in the book is Io, and Io is a descendant of one of the fate goddesses, I think that's what they're called, and it basically means that Io is able to see people's life threads that nobody else can see. She ends up being involved in a sort of criminal murder case, and she has to partner up with this gang called the Fortuna, and one of the members there is a boy called Edai. I think that's how you say his name. I might be wrong though. I found the first book to be so gripping. I couldn't put it down, and there were so many twists and turns, and it was so mind-blowingly good. Oh, I just love it so much. and I know that it's been compared a lot to These Violent Delights, so maybe if you like the action and the fast-paced nature of These Violent Delights, you'll also love Threads That Bind. I also want to quickly touch base upon 5 books that are on my priority list this summer. And they're on my priority list because I've been gifted them as presents from friends and family. And some of these have been sitting on my shelves for way too long now. And I definitely want to be able to make sure I read every single one of them. So the first one is The Baron in the Trees by Italo Calvino. And of course, this is the book that my dad got me as a souvenir present from Rome on our family holiday. I have just about started the book and I think I'll really enjoy it once I get into it. Actually, I was already sort of into it, but I think, like I mentioned, my desire for reading classics sort of faded away once I started reading some extremely fast-paced and gripping fantasy series. But yes, this is a book that I definitely want to make sure I get through. The next book I have is The Book of the Dung Cow, and this is a Christian fantasy classic, I believe. But it's a book that my fiance gifted me for my birthday last year, so it's been almost an entire year that this book has been sitting on my TBR shelf, and I feel so awful about it. It was a part of a surprise gift that he got me, and I think there were about 5 books that he picked out and he had wrapped them individually, and it was so sweet of him. And I think I've read almost all the books that he got me besides book 2 to the Mistborn series. I have yet to read that because I need to refresh my memory on the first book before I dive into the second one. But this is the other one that's been sitting on my shelf. I didn't even know about this book when I got this, and so it's really intrigued me. I think it must be similar to like Animal Farm because it follows animals. I'm sure there's like an allegorical message and deep meaning behind it as well. It is a Christian book, so I'm excited to see the Christian message come through in this as well. The next book I have is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and this is a YA fantasy. This is actually another book that Ian gifted me, and we picked this out together from Waterstones because it was a sort of like treat book. I must have finished or handed in a big deadline project, and he wanted to give me a special treat to celebrate. I even have the receipt in it, and it says I got this, or he got this on February the 16th and of not this year, of last year. Oh my gosh, no. I feel absolutely terrible for not having picked this up because it's supposed to be like a competition with tailors and tailor magic. I don't know why I haven't picked this up. I'm so sorry, Ian. The 4th book on my priority list is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. This is another book from Ian that he got as a souvenir for me from it was his stag, and he went on a trip to Rome with some of his good friends, and he thought of me when he was on the trip and got me a little souvenir. I don't feel as bad about not reading this book yet though, because he only came back from his trip maybe 2 weeks ago, so I haven't actually had the chance to pick this one up, but I'm so grateful for it. And Ian said that he picked this specific cover out for me because it had the teapot and the tea design, and he knows how much I love tea, so thank you, Ian. I will be reading all your books, this is a promise. I also think the end papers are super cute. It's got these adorable teapot design. And the final book on my TBR priority list is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and I am so excited to read this one this summer. I specifically have been saving it to read this time of year because I believe it's sort of like a fever dreamish like novel. I believe it takes place in summer. I can't wait to read it because it was gifted to me by my incredible friend Tahir, or Asma, but she got me this as an engagement present when Ian and I got engaged last October. And so yes, I have been specifically saving this one to read this summer, hopefully when it gets super hot. Okay, so now that I've talked about some of the books that are on my TBR, I'm going to try and reorganize the little shelves I have above my desk, which you will have seen in my videos in the background. And I want to make sure that those shelves are regularly updated. So let me swivel the camera around and we can start putting the shelves together again. In case any of you were wondering, I'm currently standing on top of my chair to be able to film this, and I set on my camera, so that's fine, but I couldn't actually talk comfortably and reach out to get the books that I wanted to show you guys unless I was standing on top of a chair, so here we are. But these books have been placed at no particular order. They're very much random, and just I placed whichever ones I could grab first. Up first we have The Book of the Dung Cow, and then Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, Spin the Dawn, and those are all the books that are on my main priority list this year. But then I have All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot, and I actually really want to be able to read this summer so that I can watch the TV adaptation, because I've heard such amazing things about that. So yeah, I can't wait to pick this one up. We have Hedge Witch, which is a middle grade fantasy that I've also been wanting to read for the longest time. This book was on my spring TBR and it's sort of been pushed over to the summer TBR as well, but it's got some gorgeous illustrations in it. Look at that. It's beautiful. Next we have Raybearer, which is a book that I found from the charity shop, this particular copy, but it's because I heard Monica Kim, I believe. Yeah, she had this book, well, she recommended this book a lot, and so I really wanted to check it out. And I don't even know if this takes place during summer at all, but the title made me gravitate towards it. Up next is a copy of Romeo and Juliet that I own, and I must have gotten this years and years ago, maybe even in primary school, or actually more likely closer to like year 7 maybe. I was just flicking through it and I even discovered I wrote this in my blue fountain pen. Oh my gosh, will it focus? It says Ion Kim 2011. We also have these two classics that I've been meaning to read. We've got Mrs. Dalloway and The Picture of Dorian Gray. You might be able to tell that I've already made, well, I started reading these books last year and I didn't get very far into either one of them, so hopefully this year I'll make some good progress. Up is a copy of All the Light We Cannot See that I found from my little free library book earlier this year. Each year I end up being in the mood to read a slightly heavier topic in terms of historical fiction novels, especially ones that are centered around war and the effects of war, and so I put this on my shelf in case I am in that mood this summer. Next is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood, and this is a book that I just genuinely, I can't wait to get to this year, because I know it's a perfect book for summer. A lot of people have recommended it, saying that it's one of their favourites. And so yeah, I can't wait. Oh yes, I forgot to mention, this book is also supposed to be Great Gatsby inspired. This one is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, of course, and I really am not a fan of this particular edition that I own. It's got the Specsavers National Book Awards. I'm aware that Lexi loves this book and really highly recommends it, so I think if I'm in the mood for some magical realism, something slightly more atmospheric and moody and dark and a bit horror-esque this year, I'll definitely try and pick up this particular book. And the last book on this little mini shelf is When Stars Are Scattered, and it's by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed. This is a graphic novel that I bought, I think last year, because I thought it was a really poignant and important story for me to familiarize myself with and just really understand a little bit better, like the experience of the refugees and refugee camps. I think the words heart-wrenching, hopeful, intimate and unforgettable will be hopefully how I feel about this book once I make my way through it. Up there in the corner is my copy of Emily Bronte's The Complete Poems, and I had that there throughout spring, but I'm going to leave that there in summer as well because it's just one that I like to pick up from time to time and make my way through very, very slowly. So yeah, regardless of the season, that will be there until I finish. But up front we have The Borrowers, and The Borrowers is a book, a book that I found in my little free library, and it's in such great condition as well. This is a book that I tried reading this spring and I didn't get to it, and I know that Arrietty by Studio Ghibli is inspired by this book by Mary Norton, and so I definitely want to try and read it, hopefully this summer. Next up we have The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and of course 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater, which I recently got from my trip to Europe's largest bookstore. I definitely want to read this because I know how much I loved Olivia Atwater's Half a Soul, and loads of you have been telling me actually in that bookstore vlog video that you think I'll love this one as well and that you loved it, so that got me really, really excited. We then have a copy of The Apothecary Diaries, which is also one that I bought from the book shopping trip. I know that lots of you have actually said that The Apothecary Diaries is one of your favourite manga series of all time, and so I'm really eager to get started. And to be honest, the content matter with the herbal apothecary magic already is like a major book, like good book points for me, so hopefully I'll love this just as much as you guys do. Next up is The Hobbit by Tolkien, and I had this on my spring TBR, many of you guys will know, but this book has been on my shelves for so long now. I don't even know how many years I've had this. Well, actually, this is my brother's copy, but I don't know why it's so difficult for me to read it. I think I must have started it like 5 times now because I definitely tried listening to the audiobook this spring and that was so good, but again, I just didn't get further than like 10% of the way through. I'm going to try and reread it this summer and then have the added bonus of watching the movie as a reward or a treat afterwards. We have Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson as well. This one is also from my recent book shopping vlog video. I started this last summer. I thought it was a great read for summer. I didn't finish it, so hopefully this year I'll get round to finishing it. And last but not least, we have Letters of Vincent van Gogh, and it's a non-fiction book all about his letters, as the title suggests. In the corner, I have a dedicated space to my most recently finished physical books because I often find that I don't want to like tuck it away into my main big bookshelf. I sort of want to be able to look at the covers and linger with the stories a little bit, and so Over there we've got Heartburn by Nora Ephron and also One Afternoon by Sean James, which I both recently finished. I think both were about 3 stars-ish. They weren't my favourites, but they were obviously not bad. They were both very great books actually. Vicky, you want to say bye? You want to say bye-bye? Thank you all so much for watching. I feel like I have a really good picture now of the books that I want to prioritize and the books that I just want to make sure I get to before summer whizzes past and then it's autumn, and then I'll have a completely different autumnal focused set of books that I want to read. I had so much fun putting together this video and planning my summer TBR with you all. Let me know what you guys love to watch on my channel. I know I like to film a little bit of everything from studio vlogs to book shopping vlogs and book hauls and other travel vlogs. I am in the middle of trying to plan what kind of videos to film for summer, and I do have a couple of good ideas, including maybe the mid-year book freakout tag. Thank you all so much for watching, friends, and I hope to see you all in next week's video. Bye, friends!